Hello and welcome to 6 Degrees of Wiki, a podcast by Something Cheeky, where two sisters find the 6 degrees of separation between Wikipedia articles that don't seem to have anything in common. I'm Rosanna.
And I'm Nikki. Today we'll fall into a Wikipedia spiral where Rosanna has just 6 rounds to figure out how the first article could possibly be connected to the last, while learning all sorts of peculiar facts along the way. Let's get started. So far this month, we've gone from Mae West to Transylvania. Round 1. Today we're spiraling from Transylvania to deception. Transylvania, as we learned last week, is a historical region in what is now known as Romania. Pretty well known for scenery there. It's got the Carpathian mountain range, which is gorgeous, and a very rich history. Anyone listening to the show probably immediately thought of vampires, because Bram Stoker's Dracula is set in Transylvania. Deception is the act of propagating a belief that's not true, or not quite the whole truth. Rosanna, do you see any commonalities between Transylvania and deception?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I haven't actually read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I've read parts of it. And I've seen parts of the Keanu Reeves movie.
Who hasn't?
And what I get from vampires in general is that they don't just come right out and tell you they're vampires at first.
True.
And that is a deception.
That's a good connection.
Thank you. So pretty much what I think we're going to do is just go from vampires to other liars. Just a whole trail of liars.
Beautiful. So let's learn a little bit more about Transylvania. They have a lot of minerals, iron, lead, manganese, all that good stuff, even gold. They also have a really big IT industry.
Did you say IT?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, information technology.
Huh.
Yeah, they've also got a lot of electronic companies and automotive companies. Something you do know is that they have a lot of Gothic architecture. Well, at least you'd expect that. Yeah. Especially churches. Today we're going to focus on the religion in Transylvania. Something I was surprised to find out about Transylvania is that they have a whole bunch of different religions there. There's not a really dominant religion. There are a lot of different Christian denominations, and they all coexist really well. It's kind of a melting pot for religions.
It's not very big, though, right?
No.
Huh. That's interesting.
When they were under the Habsburgs, Transylvania was a place for religious undesirables. So people got sent there that didn't conform to the religions of other places. They were sent there forcibly.
Wow.
And they got a lot of religious refugees, too. Transylvania has a really long history of religious tolerance, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Round 2. Rosanna, what do you think the next degree is between Transylvania and deception? Got a long way to go.
I honestly cannot even think of 1 degree away from the article of deception, so this is going to be a pretty far-reaching guess.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Gothic architecture.
You are incorrect.
It's a shot in the dark.
Have you ever met me before?
What are you trying to say? Where's this going?
Did you think that when I chose Transylvania that I could choose any degree for the next one besides vampires? Come on.
It just seems so obvious.
The next degree is vampires. I could not resist.
Okay, that's fair, because I bet that's a pretty interesting article.
Oh, it's so cool. So let's talk about vampires. They are beings from folklore. Vampires live by feeding on a vital force, usually blood, of the living. They've been recorded in most cultures, though the term vampire itself didn't actually come about until the 18th century. It was popularized in Western Europe after mass hysteria of a pre-existing folk belief, and that happened in the Balkans and Eastern Europe. And that caused a whole bunch of corpses being staked and people being accused of vampirism and killed. If you do come across a vampire, there are some ways to protect yourself. You can use apotropaics, which are items that ward off revenants like vampires. So the typical ones, garlic and sunlight, which people think is because rabies.
Oh, okay.
People that have rabies avoid sunlight and garlic, and they have a drive to bite others. Also a bloody frothing at the mouth.
Gross.
You can also use crucifixes, rosaries, holy water, a branch of wild rose or a hawthorn plant. If you really want to be serious about protecting yourself from vampires, you should sprinkle mustard seeds on your roof.
On your roof.
And hang aloe vera backwards near a door.
Backwards near a door. Now, how near a door?
Not specified, but you better get it right.
Well, yeah.
My favorite interesting fact about vampires, fact being a nice word. In 2006, there was a professor at the University of Central Florida, because they had nothing better to do in Florida, apparently. They wrote a paper that said it was mathematically impossible for vampires to exist based on geometric progression. Basically, exponential growth of vampirism. If you had a vampire that fed once a month, just one single vampire in the world, and every victim of theirs turned into a vampire, which is debatable based on the lore.
Depends on the story.
Then it would only take 2.5 years for the entire human population of the world to become vampires.
I have often wondered about that, too.
Yeah. You'd run out of people to feed on.
Yeah. But, again, depends on the story.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe people spent time on that study.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay.
Round 3.
Okay, Rosanna, what is the next degree between vampire and deception? There was a lot there to work with.
There was a ton. I don't know. Garlic just in general, because I love garlic. Also, mass hysteria, I thought sounded fun.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go with that one, actually.
Oh, okay, you sure?
My guess is mass hysteria.
You are correct.
No!
You are. It is mass hysteria.
Oh my god. Why do I always get like the third or fourth one and then I just totally go off the rails? Yay!
So mass hysteria is a term used in sociology and psychology, also known as collective hysteria, group hysteria, or collective obsessional behavior. It's this phenomenon where collective illusions or threats are transmitted between a bunch of people. They might be real or imaginary. And it's basically a result of rumors and fear. Medicine has a different version of mass hysteria. It describes the spontaneous manifestation of a hysterical physical symptom by more than one person. So basically, not psychological, but it actually produces physical symptoms. It produces chemicals in your body that make things happen.
But based on something that you are thinking or believing.
Right, based on something that you believe.
Okay.
There wasn't a ton of information about this, but I picked out my favorite notable cases of mass hysteria in history.
Good. That's what I'm looking forward to.
There's a surprising number that happened in convents and a lot of seizures that started mass hysteria.
Convents
events.
And seizures?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I didn't list them all here, but there are just a whole bunch of people that had seizures that started this seizure-like activity in a bunch of other people, mostly in schools. Kids are really susceptible to this stuff.
They're very impressionable.
Mm-hmm. So 1518, there was the dancing plague. It was in Strasbourg, Alsace, and some people danced for days, and some people died from heart attack and stroke because they just kept dancing.
Oh, I feel bad for laughing.
Yeah, you should.
How do you even dance so long it kills you?
I don't know.
You know who you should ask?
Who?
Jamiroquai.
I got candied in my heels tonight, baby.
That's right.
You've probably heard of the Salem witch trials.
No, tell me about that.
So in Salem Village, Massachusetts, which is now Danvers, Massachusetts, there were a few girls that had fits. They don't know if they're epileptic seizures or what, or just something they made up. And they started accusing people of being witches that, I guess, cursed them. And so people started being accused all over town. They executed 20 people.
Wow.
For being witches. And it happened in nearby towns, too, that people just started getting accused all over the place. It was a really ugly fad.
Yeah.
In 2006, there was mass hysteria in some Portuguese schools. They called it the strawberries with sugar virus. There was a TV show called Strawberries with Sugar. And 300 or more students at 14 different schools suddenly reported symptoms similar to those experienced by characters in a recent episode of the show.
What a strange coincidence.
Uh-huh. My very favorite mass hysteria event was a nun from a French convent started to meow like a cat one day. Then other nuns started to meow like cats. Eventually, all the nuns would meow together for certain periods of time every day.
Stop.
And the surrounding community was astonished. It stopped when the police threatened to whip the nuns. Then it went away.
I'm sorry, what year did you say that was?
I don't remember the year. I think it was a long time ago.
The police were gonna whip the nuns.
Yes, I think it was quite a while ago.
And that's how they stopped meowing.
Yep. I loved it.
I mean, how do I even respond to that? That's insane.
I don't know.
Meowing. Okay, alright. French meowing nuns. Cool.
Round 4.
All right, Rosanna, we are ready for the next degree. What do you think it is between mass hysteria and deception?
Well, I think based on deception being like a behavior, I feel like we should go with some sort of like mental path.
Okay.
Which kind of makes sense for mass hysteria. So I'm thinking like some of the things you said, like sociology, rumors, phenomenon, French meowing cats that are nuns. No, not that. So my guess, my guess is phenomenon.
You are incorrect.
There's no way I could have gotten 2 in a row anyway.
No. The next degree is medicine.
What? Medicine?
Yep.
That's the opposite of what I was guessing.
Yep.
How do you do that?
I'm just that good.
Did you even say medicine? I don't remember you saying medicine.
I did. I said there were 2 kinds. The psychological and the medicine one. Medicine is the science and practice of the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. It's been around for thousands of years. Most of the time it was an art instead of a science. It's still a mix of both. It often had connections to religious and philosophical beliefs based on local culture. For example, a medicine man from a tribe could apply herbs and say prayers to heal people. Or a physician, big air quotes, would apply bloodletting by cutting people or with leeches.
Yuck.
Based on humorism. So, pre-scientific forms of medicine, basically, before we started actually testing things. We now call that traditional medicine and folk medicine, or alternative medicine. Some of these can be safe when they're done by someone that's properly trained, but there are plenty that are treatments outside the bounds of safety and efficacy, and we call those quackery, performed by quacks.
Mm-hmm. Or ducks.
even in the developed world, where we use evidence-based medicine, it's not universal. In 2007, they did a survey of literature reviews. They found that 49% of interventions didn't have enough evidence to support either benefit or harm.
Wait, did you say 40%?
49%.
49. Wow. I'm a firm believer in if you think you're going to feel better, sometimes you can. Just from thinking that.
The placebo effect is real.
It's totally real.
But not reliable.
Well, no, placebo is not going to work on cancer. It might work on a headache. Yeah.
The first physician in history whose name we know was Imhotep from Egypt, the 3rd millennium BCE.
Wow.
The first medical text, also from Egypt, is called the Cahun Gynecological Papyrus from around 2000 BCE.
Those are 2 words I was not expecting to hear in the same sentence.
Mm-hmm. Gynecological and papyrus.
Yeah.
It did, as you'd expect, describe gynecological diseases.
Well, there you go.
In the Middle Ages, there was a big shift in medical thinking, because before that, there was the traditional authority approach to science and medicine, and that's where just because some prominent person in the past said something was true, that's the way it was, and anything you saw that was the contrary of that was an exception, or an anomaly.
That's not even logical. I mean,
I know!
Why would you not think somebody else might have a better idea?
Mm-hmm.
That's so dumb.
Round 5.
All right, Rosanna, 2 degrees left to guess. What is the next degree between medicine and deception?
Well, there was definitely a word that stuck out to me in this article that made me think of deception.
Okay.
So my guess is quackery. You
are correct.
Yeah! Ooh! 2 in 1 episode!
It was also the most fun word in that entire article.
Well, I mean, you just imagine ducks with stethoscopes. It's just fun.
That is not what I imagined, but now it is. Quackery is the promotion of fraudulent or ignorant medical practices. And a quack is somebody who pretends publicly to have skill or knowledge or qualifications or credentials they don't actually possess. Also called a charlatan or snake oil salesman. The word quack itself is actually a short term for an archaic word called quacksalver, which is Dutch for hawker of salve. In the Middle Ages, quack just meant shouting, because the quacksalvers sold their wares in the market just by shouting in a loud voice.
Oh, yeah, like carnival barkers.
Mm-hmm. So there's an especially bad effect of quackery. It's not just that the medicine you get isn't going to work to cure you. It's that there's a risk that patients are going to just completely forego regular treatments, more likely to help them, to try to use this miracle cure, which is often how it was touted as a miracle cure.
Right.
Quack remedies rarely had any effective ingredients at all. Some of them, way back when, had things like opium, alcohol, honey, so they would have given you a little bit of relief temporarily, but wouldn't actually cure anything.
Yeah.
Or just, get you drunk or high.
Well, you probably felt better if you were
exactly.
drunk or high. You're like, I can't find my way home, but my head doesn't hurt anymore, so yeah.
And some, like opium, had addictive properties, so people would keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these did actually have medicinal effects, like mercury, silver, and arsenic. They helped some infestations and infections. And willow bark has salicylic acid, which is closely related to aspirin. There's quinine in Jesuit's bark, which is helpful for malaria. Some examples of historical quackery. In the mid-19th century, Revalenta arabica was advertised as having really restorative virtues for invalids. It was just lentil flour.
Oh.
There was Beecham's pills, which were incredibly popular in England. In 1909, it just had aloe, ginger, and soap.
Soap in a pill?
Uh-huh. They said it cured 31 medical conditions, and it was actually sold until 1998.
What?
I know. Way too long.
Oh my gosh.
And my very favorite quackery example is Dr. quote-unquote Sibley. He was English. He had lots of patents in late 18th and early 19th centuries. His favorite one was the reanimating solar tincture. And he claimed it would restore life in the event of sudden death.
What?
I'm pretty sure that's how you get vampires.
Pretty sure, yeah, we just made a full circle back to Transylvania. Mm-hmm.
Round 6.
Right, Rosanna, this is your last guess. What is the degree between quackery and deception?
I think it has something to do with pretending to have skills or knowledge or education or...
Is that like us in this show? Pretending to have knowledge?
Hey, now, we don't want that on record, okay? I mean... I think it's something like fraud.
Okay.
You mentioned, like, fraudulent behavior, fraudulent claims, so my guess is fraud.
All right.
Because that's a deception.
It is a deception.
Yeah.
Your guess of fraud is incorrect.
Oh.
The next degree is charlatan.
Okay, charlatan. All right. I mean, that's a good one. Yeah.
Charlatan is a person who practices quackery or other confidence tricks, so like con men. Usually to obtain money or fame or some other advantage using deception. A charlatan could be a person who fakes evidence that a spirit is making contact with a medium. The word charlatan itself comes from the French charlatan, who is a seller of medicines, who advertises his presence with music on an outdoor stage. The best known Parisian charlatan was Tabarin. He set up a stage in the Place Dauphin in Paris in 1618, and his show inspired skits and farces that inspired Molière.
Ah.
Here's some fun terminology for charlatans. A misdirection by a charlatan is called a confuddle.
Sounds like a spell from Harry Potter.
It's pretty great. The leader of a group of con men is called a dropper. And hangmen are con men that present false checks. Which is not what I would think from the word hangman.
No, not at all. False checks. Like a check.
It's very specific.
Like somebody just bounces checks. It seems like their nickname would have something to do with bouncing.
It's like Frank Abagnale Jr. from Catch Me If You Can. He made all the fake checks.
Yeah.
Do you concur?
I should have concurred. Yeah. Should always concur.
A gaff is an old device used for cheating. And a victim of a rigged game is called a mugu.
A mugu?
A mugu.
I mean, I guess if you've been swindled, mugu is sufficiently embarrassing as a name. I don't know.
Alright, so let's get to deception.
Alright.
People probably know what deception is. It's the act of propagating a belief that's not true, or not the whole truth, like half-truths and omissions. It can involve propaganda, sleight of hand, distraction, camouflage, concealment, and there's also self-deception, which we all practice from time to time.
No, I don't.
So meta. Transgressions in relationships usually lead to feelings of betrayal or distrust, because most people expect their friends and partners to be truthful most of the time.
Of course.
Deception includes lies, equivocations, concealments, exaggerations, and even understatement. There's a quote in here. Many people believe that they are good at deception, though this competence is often misplaced.
Ah.
There are a whole bunch of different types of deception. White lies. Simulation is when you exhibit false information, like mimicry, when animals pretend to be something else, like a stick bug. Fabrication, like a fishing lure, when you want to make something look like something else. Or distraction, like a magician uses. A disguise, to pretend to be someone else. My favorite form of deception is called dazzle. And this is a defense mechanism like octopuses that eject black ink in a large cloud to get away from predators. So that's deception. Next week, we're going to talk about detecting deception. We've made it through all 6 degrees. We went from Transylvania to vampire, to mass hysteria, to medicine, to quackery, to charlatan, to deception. Rosanna, what did you think of the spiral today?
Well, I was thinking I was pretty proud of myself for getting a couple right.
Yeah, you got 2.
Then I remembered how I didn't get vampires first, and that definitely knocked me down a peg. I should have got that one.
You really should have.
But this is fun. I liked hearing about the cases of mass hysteria, which is an awful thing to say, but it's interesting.
It is very interesting.
And then, of course, the quackery mental image of the duck with a stethoscope is always funny.
Well, we always think we would never fall victim to mass hysteria events or quackery, but I don't know.
So yeah, it was a good spiral. I like it. I'm interested to see how deception moves on through more degrees.
Yeah. That is next week. It's time for Cheek of the Week. Today's cheek are the best ways to kill vampires in order of weirdness.
All right.
I'm going to go from least weird to most weird.
Excellent.
As you've probably heard of, many vampires were often staked through the heart. They would dig people up, or do this to corpses before they buried them.
And the majority of them were not vampires.
The majority. In Russia and northern Germany, they would stake them through the mouth, and in northeastern Serbia, they would stake them through the stomach. The Romani people would drive steel or iron needles into a corpse's heart and place bits of steel in the mouth, the eyes, ears, and between the fingers when they buried them. In Bulgaria, over 100 skeletons were found with metal objects like plow bits embedded into the torso.
Yuck.
Apparently they had a lot of vampires in Bulgaria.
Yeah, or just people full of metal.
The Germans, as you would expect, were pragmatic but weird. They would decapitate suspected vampires, and then they would put the head either between the feet, away from the body, or behind the buttocks.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Another German thing, in Saxon regions in Germany, they would just put a lemon in the mouth of a suspected vampire. Simple.
A lemon?
A lemon.
Okay. Sounds fake, but okay.
The weirdest one in Romania starts out as expected. They would put garlic in the mouth. As recently as the 19th century, they would shoot a bullet through the coffin. They would dismember the body, burn the pieces. Here's the weird part. They'd take the ash from the burned pieces, mix it with water, and give it to family members as a cure.
No.
Yes.
No.
So, drink up Grandpa's ashes, and you won't become a vampire.
That's so gross.
Those are the weirdest ways to kill a vampire around the world.
Well, I think if you're going to pick one to go with, you should go with Romania, just because they probably have a better idea.
If anyone knows, the Romanians know how to deal with a vampire.
It's the Romanians, exactly. Yes.
That's our episode. Tune in next time for another 6 Degrees of Wiki. You can keep up with us on Twitter at SomeCheek, Facebook.com/SomeCheek, and Instagram at Something Cheeky Podcast. If you have questions, feedback, or an idea for our next Wiki Spiral, send an email to contact@somethingcheekypodcast.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider making a donation to help us cover our production costs. Just click the donate button on our website. Leaving a review for us on iTunes also really helps. Can't wait for our next show? Check out an episode of Something Cheeky Movies. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Do